The alarm bells rang across Nexus Station like angry thunder. In the main control room, alien beings from 12 different worlds stared at their screens with wide eyes. The impossible had happened. "Confirm that signal again," Admiral Zethkar growled. His blue skin turned darker when he was angry, and right now it was almost black. The Krillian Empire had ruled this part of space for 300 years, and nothing surprised him anymore. Nothing except this. The small gray-skinned Talari at the communication station pressed buttons with shaking fingers. "The signal is real, Admiral. It says human vessel Perseverance requesting permission to dock at Nexus Station. The ship codes match perfectly." "That's impossible," said Counselor Vexara from the Volari Consortium. Her forearms moved in quick patterns as she spoke, a sign she was nervous. "The Perseverance disappeared 11 years ago. We all saw the reports. They went into the Void Nebula and never came out. No ship has ever survived that place." Admiral Zethkar turned to look at the main viewing screen. There, floating in the darkness of space, was a ship that looked like the Perseverance. But something was wrong. The hull seemed to shine with a strange light that moved like water. The ship was bigger than it should be, and its shape was somehow different. More elegant. More dangerous. Could it be a trick? Asked General Corthan from the Hegemony Worlds. His rock-like face showed no emotion, but his voice carried worry. "Maybe our enemies built a fake ship to fool us. Why would they use a human ship?" Vexara asked. "Humans are the newest members of the Galactic Council. They've only been here for 20 years. Most of us still think they're primitive." "Maybe that's exactly why," Zethkar said slowly. "No one would suspect humans of being dangerous. The truth was that most alien races looked down on humans. They were small and weak compared to Krillians. They had no natural armor like the hegemony races. They couldn't survive in space without suits like the void swimmers. They couldn't even live for more than 100 years like most civilized species. The only reason they were allowed into the Galactic Council was because they were so stubborn and refused to give up." "Admiral," the Talari communications officer called out. "They're asking again for permission to dock. They say Captain Sarah Chen is on board and wants to speak to the Council." Zethkar knew that name. Sarah Chen had been the captain of the Perseverance when it left on humanity's first deep space colony mission. She was supposed to be dead. They were all supposed to be dead. "Run a deep scan of that ship," he ordered. "I want to know everything about it. Weapons, crew numbers, energy readings, everything." The scan took several minutes. When the results came back, the technician's face went pale. "Admiral, this is strange. The ship shows 200 life forms on board. All human. But the energy readings, they're unlike anything we've seen before. The ship's power core is putting out more energy than our entire station. 200. Vexara's voice was sharp. "The Perseverance left with exactly 200 crew members. How is that possible? No ship can keep that many people alive for 11 years in the Void Nebula. Maybe they didn't stay in the nebula," General Corthan suggested. "Maybe they found a way out and have been hiding somewhere." "For 11 years? Zethkar shook his head. "Without contacting anyone? Without sending word to Earth? That doesn't make sense." The debate continued for another hour. Some council members wanted to let the ship dock immediately. Others thought it was too dangerous. The humans had always been unpredictable, but this was something else entirely. Finally, Zethkar made the decision. "We let them dock, but with full security measures. Battle stations will remain on alert. If this is some kind of trap, we'll be ready." The docking process took longer than usual. The strange energy coming from the human ship interfered with the station's systems. When the airlocks finally connected, everyone held their breath. The first person to step off the ship was Captain Sarah Chen. She looked exactly the same as she had 11 years ago. Not older, not tired, not marked by the hard years that should have passed. Her uniform was clean and pressed. Her eyes were bright and alert, but there was something different about the way she moved. Every step was perfectly placed. Every gesture was precise. She moved like a dancer or like a predator. Behind her came the rest of the crew, all 200 of them walking in perfect formation. They didn't talk or look around with curiosity like normal humans would. They simply followed their captain with the same precise movements. Admiral Zethkar met them at the airlock with a full honor guard. "Captain Chen," he said carefully, "welcome back to Nexus Station. We thought you were dead." Sarah Chen smiled, but the smile didn't reach her eyes. Those eyes seemed to hold depths that shouldn't exist in any human. "We've been away, Admiral, but we're back now. And we have much to discuss with the Galactic Council." Where have you been for 11 years? Zethkar asked directly. He had never been one for small talk. Learning, Chen replied simply. Growing. Becoming what we needed to become. The way she said it sent chills down Zethkar's spine. He had fought in 3 wars and faced death more times than he could count. But something about this small human woman made him nervous. The council will want a full report, he said. Of course, that's why we're here. Chen turned to her crew. Secure the ship. Begin integration protocols. The crew members nodded and moved away, still in that strange, perfect formation. Zethkar noticed that they seemed to communicate without speaking. A glance here, a slight nod there, and they all seemed to understand each other perfectly. As they walked through the station toward the council chambers, Zethkar studied Chen more carefully. Her breathing was steady and controlled. Her heartbeat was slow and strong. Even her footsteps made no sound on the metal floors. Everything about her suggested someone who had perfect control over their body. Captain, he said as they walked, your ship has some interesting modifications. Our scans showed energy readings we've never seen before. The Void Nebula taught us many things, Chen replied. We learned to adapt, to improve, to become more than we were. And your crew? They seem different. Chen stopped walking and turned to face him. For a moment her eyes seemed to glow with an inner light. We are all different now, Admiral. The question is whether the galaxy is ready for what we've become. Before Zethkar could ask what she meant, they reached the council chambers. The great doors opened, and Captain Sarah Chen walked in to address the representatives of 12 alien civilizations. Behind her, the modified human ship waited in the docking bay, its strange energy pulsing like a heartbeat. The galaxy was about to change forever, and nobody knew it yet except for the 200 humans who had returned from the impossible journey through the Void Nebula. They had gone in as explorers and colonists. They had come back as something else entirely, something stronger, something smarter, something that would reshape the balance of power in the galaxy, whether the other races wanted it or not. The Galactic Council Chamber was the largest room on Nexus Station. Representatives from 12 different worlds sat in a great circle, each in their own special area designed for their species' needs. The Krillians had their high platforms, the Volari had their water pools, and the gas-breathing Nethori had their sealed chambers. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the center of the circle, looking small and fragile compared to the massive aliens around her. But her voice carried clearly to every corner of the chamber when she began to speak. 11 years ago, the Perseverance left Earth on humanity's first deep space colony mission, she said. We were supposed to establish a new human settlement in the Kepler sector. Instead, our navigation systems failed near the Void Nebula. We had 2 choices. Try to go around, which would take 20 years and use up all our supplies, or go through. Counselor Vexara leaned forward in her water pool. Going through the Void Nebula is suicide. No ship has ever survived it. The gravitational forces alone would tear any vessel apart. That's what we thought too, Chen replied calmly. But we were wrong. The Void Nebula isn't a natural formation. It's a construct. A testing ground created by an ancient race called the Architects. A ripple of shocked whispers went through the chamber. The Architects were legend. A civilization so advanced that they had supposedly transcended physical existence millions of years ago. Admiral Zethkar's voice cut through the noise. You're claiming the Architects are real? And that they built the Void Nebula? Not just built it, Chen said. They designed it as a trial, a test to see which species were worthy of advancement. When the Perseverance entered the nebula, we didn't find empty space. We found challenges. She began to walk slowly around the center of the chamber as she spoke. The first test came within hours. Our ship was caught in a gravitational maze. Normal physics said we should have been crushed, but the maze was designed to be solved. We had to work together, think in ways we never had before. Our engineers had to redesign our engines in real time. Our navigators had to calculate impossible courses. Our crew had to trust each other completely. And you solved it? General Corthan asked. His rock-like features showed surprise. We did. But solving it changed us. When we came out of that first test, we could think faster, react quicker. Our minds had been expanded. Chen stopped walking and looked directly at Admiral Zethkar. That was just the beginning. For 11 years we faced test after test. Some challenged our bodies, pushing us beyond human limits until we adapted. Others challenged our minds, forcing us to see patterns and connections that normal thinking couldn't grasp. Still others tested our spirits, our ability to stay united when everything tried to tear us apart. She raised her hand and made a small gesture. The lights in the chamber dimmed slightly, responding to her movement. Several council members gasped. Each test we passed made us stronger, smarter, more than we were before. The architect's technology began to merge with our ship, with our equipment, and eventually with us. We learned to control gravity, to manipulate energy fields, to communicate without words. Vexara's 4 arms moved in agitation. "You're saying you're no longer human?" "We're more human than we ever were," Chen replied. "We're what humans become when they're pushed beyond their limits and refuse to break." The architects didn't change our nature. They revealed what we truly are. To demonstrate, Chen closed her eyes and extended her hands. The air around her began to shimmer. Complex mathematical equations appeared in glowing symbols floating above her palms. The equations showed gravitational calculations that would normally require the station's main computer. "The human brain," she said softly, "is capable of far more than any species realizes. Under the right pressure, with the right training, it can expand beyond current understanding." We learned to use parts of our minds that had been sleeping. The equations faded and Chen opened her eyes. But the mental changes were just the beginning. Our bodies adapted too. We can survive in environments that would kill normal humans. We can go without food or water for weeks. Our reflexes are faster than any species in the galaxy. To prove her point, Chen moved. One moment she was standing still. The next she was across the chamber, having moved so fast that most of the council members couldn't follow her with their eyes. She was back in the center before they realized she had moved at all. "Impossible," breathed Counselor Yathara from the Stellar Dominion. "No organic being can move that fast." "The architects taught us that impossible is just another word for not yet achieved," Chen said. "Every test we faced seemed impossible until we learned to think differently." Admiral Zethkar leaned forward on his platform. "What happened to the architects? If they were so advanced, where are they now?" Chen's expression grew sad. "They ascended beyond physical existence, just as the legends say. But before they left, they faced a great enemy. Something that hunts advanced civilizations and devours them. The architects called them the Devourers." The chamber fell silent. Even the background hum of the station's systems seemed to quiet. "The architects knew the Devourers would return someday," Chen continued. "They built the trials in the Void Nebula to prepare the next generation of Guardians, to create beings capable of standing against the darkness." "And you believe humans are meant to be these Guardians?" General Corthan asked. "Not just humans," Chen replied. "The trials can work on any species willing to face them. But humans were the first to succeed completely, the first to prove worthy of the architect's gifts." She gestured, and a holographic display appeared in the air above the chamber. It showed star charts of the local galaxy, with the Void Nebula marked clearly. "We've spent 11 years learning from the architect's technology. We've mapped safe paths through the nebula. We've learned to replicate the trials. Other human ships are already undergoing the transformation process." Vexara's voice was sharp with fear. "How many ships?" 50 so far," Chen said calmly. "More are being prepared. Each crew that completes the trials becomes stronger, smarter, more capable. Within a generation, humanity will be transformed." The implications hit the Council like a physical blow. Humanity, the youngest and supposedly weakest race in the galaxy, was becoming something far beyond any of them. "What do you want from us?" Admiral Zethkar asked quietly. Chen smiled, and this time the smile was warm and genuine. "Partnership. The trials aren't meant for humans alone. Any species that's willing to face the challenges, to grow beyond their current limits, can benefit. We're offering to share what we've learned. And if we refuse?" General Corthan asked. "Then you remain as you are while the galaxy changes around you," Chen replied. "The Devourers are coming." The architect's warnings were clear. When they arrive, unchanged civilizations won't survive. Only those who have grown beyond their original limits will have the strength to fight. She looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of each council member. "We're not here to conquer or dominate. We're here to prepare. The question is whether you'll join us in becoming what the galaxy needs us to be, or whether you'll cling to what you've always been and hope it's enough." The silence that followed was profound. The representatives of 12 worlds stared at the small human woman, who had just told them their entire understanding of the galaxy, was wrong. Outside the chamber, the Perseverance waited in its docking bay, its hull pulsing with architect energy, and somewhere in the darkness between stars, ancient sensors that had been dormant for millions of years began to activate. The Devourers had noticed the resurgence of architect technology. The countdown to the galaxy's greatest trial had begun. 3 months had passed since Captain Chen's revelation to the Galactic Council, and the galaxy was no longer the same place. The news of humanity's transformation had spread like wildfire through every system, every trade route, every diplomatic channel. On the Krillian homeworld of Vorthiak, Admiral Zethkar stood before the High Command, his blue skin pale with frustration. "The humans are changing everything," he reported. Their trade negotiations with the Volari Consortium ended with terms that favor them completely. Somehow they predicted every bargaining position the Volari would take. Fleet Commander Gextar, an older Krillian with battle scars covering his arms, slammed his fist on the metal table. "How is that possible? The Volari are the best traders in the galaxy. They've been making deals for 1,000 years. The humans think differently now," Zethkar explained. "During the meeting, I watched Captain Chen calculate market fluctuations in her head that would normally require a team of economists. She predicted how the Volari would react to each offer before they even knew themselves. The implications terrified the Krillian leadership. For 3 centuries, they had been the dominant military force in the galaxy. Their strength and advanced weapons had given them control over dozens of systems. Now they faced beings who could outthink their best strategists. Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. On the gas giant Nathara, the Council of Clouds debated whether to accept humanity's offer to share the architect trials. Some argued it was their only chance to remain relevant. Others feared losing their cultural identity. The Volari Consortium was in chaos. Their entire economy was based on being smarter than other species in trade negotiations. If humans could predict their moves perfectly, what advantage did they have left? Meanwhile, the human ships that had undergone the trials were spreading throughout the galaxy. They moved with purpose and precision that unnerved other species. When they arrived at a space station, they knew exactly where to dock for maximum efficiency. When they entered a system, they already had calculated the best trade routes and diplomatic approaches. Captain Chen had established a headquarters on Nexus Station. The human section had been expanded and now buzzed with activity. Transformed humans worked alongside advanced computer systems, analyzing data streams that came from across the galaxy. Dr. Elena Vasquez, the Perseverance's chief science officer, was studying the political effects of their return. She had always been brilliant, but now her enhanced mind could process social patterns like a computer program. "The fear response is exactly what we expected," she told Chen during one of their daily briefings. "Species that have been dominant are terrified of losing power. Species that have been oppressed see us as potential liberators. The middle-tier civilizations are trying to decide which side to join." Chen nodded as she reviewed reports on multiple holographic displays. "Any species showing interest in the trials?" "Surprisingly, yes. The Takari from the Outer Rim sent a formal request yesterday. They're a smaller species, often bullied by larger empires. They see transformation as their chance to level the playing field." "And the major powers?" "Still debating. The Krillians are split between fear and curiosity. Some of their military leaders think enhanced soldiers would make them unstoppable. Others worry about losing control if their troops become too independent." Chen pulled up a star map showing current political alliances. Red lines connected species that were forming anti-human coalitions. Green lines showed potential allies. Yellow indicated neutrals who were still deciding. "The galaxy is dividing," she observed. "Faster than we anticipated." "Was this inevitable?" Dr. Vasquez asked. "Yes," Chen replied without hesitation. "Change always creates fear. The question is whether we can manage the transition without a war." As if summoned by her words, Lieutenant Commander Torres approached with urgent news. His enhanced reflexes had made him the perfect messenger for critical information. "Captain, we're receiving reports of secret meetings between the Krillian Empire, the Hegemony, and 3 smaller military powers. Intelligence suggests they're planning some kind of joint action against human ships. Chen wasn't surprised. Her enhanced mind had run probability calculations that showed this outcome was likely. What type of action? Unknown, but Fleet Admiral Korthak of the Hegemony was heard saying that the human threat must be contained before it spreads further. Dr. Vasquez looked worried. Should we warn our other ships? They already know, Chen said calmly. Enhanced humans can sense hostility and aggressive intentions from great distances. Our crews will be ready. She was right. Throughout the galaxy, the transformed human crews were already adapting their routes and schedules. They moved like water, flowing around obstacles before those obstacles fully formed. On the trading station Epsilon 7, Captain Maria Santos of the enhanced ship Determination was negotiating with Valari merchants when she suddenly stopped mid-sentence. Her enhanced senses had detected elevated stress hormones and aggressive pheromones from a group of Krillian soldiers approaching the trading floor. "Excuse me," she told the confused Valari. "We need to conclude this negotiation quickly." Within minutes, the Determination had completed what should have been hours of bargaining and was departing the station. The Krillian soldiers arrived at the docking bay just in time to see the human ship jumping to hyperspace. This pattern repeated across dozens of systems. Human ships seemed to anticipate trouble and avoid it before it happened. Frustrated military commanders found themselves chasing shadows. The situation came to a head when Admiral Zethkar himself led a fleet to intercept the human ship Explorer near the Centauri system. The Explorer was carrying diplomatic envoys to meet with the Takari, who had formally requested to undergo the architect trials. "Human vessel, you will halt and prepare to be boarded," Zethkar broadcast on all frequencies. Captain Jennifer Walsh of the Explorer responded immediately. "Admiral Zethkar, our diplomatic mission is protected under Galactic Treaty 7 Alpha. We are proceeding to our destination." "Your destination is postponed," Zethkar replied. "The Galactic Council has voted to suspend human expansion activities pending a full investigation." This was a lie. The Council had held emergency sessions but reached no consensus. Half the members wanted to work with humanity, while the other half feared them. No official vote had been taken. Captain Walsh knew it was a lie. Her enhanced mind could analyze speech patterns and detect deception with near-perfect accuracy. "Admiral, I regret that your statement is factually incorrect. No such vote has occurred. We will continue to our scheduled meeting." Zethkar's frustration boiled over. "You will comply or face the consequences." "Admiral," Walsh said gently, "you have 12 ships in your fleet. They are positioned in a standard Krillian attack formation. Your weapons are charged to 73% capacity. Your shield harmonics are configured for battle against conventional vessels." The accuracy of her assessment shocked Zethkar. How could she know his exact formation and power levels? "However," Walsh continued, "you should know that we've been tracking your fleet for 6 hours. We've analyzed your weapon signatures, your shield frequencies, and your tactical patterns. If you choose to engage, this will not end well for your ships." To prove her point, the Explorer suddenly vanished from Zethkar's sensors. For 30 seconds, his fleet couldn't detect the human ship at all. Then it reappeared, directly behind, his flagship close enough that their hulls almost touched. "How did you do that?" Zethkar demanded. "Architect technology," Walsh explained as her ship moved back to a safe distance. "We can bend light around our hull, manipulate gravitational fields, and move through space in ways your sensors can't track. We're not trying to threaten you, Admiral. We're trying to show you that conflict is pointless." Zethkar stared at his tactical displays in disbelief. Everything he thought he knew about space combat had just become useless. "The offer still stands," Walsh said. "Your people can undergo the trials too. You can become more than you are. But if you choose to fight us instead, you'll lose. Not because we want to defeat you, but because you're fighting with yesterday's technology against tomorrow's capabilities." The Admiral looked around his bridge at his crew. They were good soldiers, loyal and brave, but they were also clearly outmatched by beings who thought faster, moved quicker, and understood the universe in ways they couldn't match. "This isn't over," he said finally. "No," Walsh agreed sadly. "But it could be if you made a different choice." As the human ship jumped away to complete its diplomatic mission, Zethkar realized the galaxy had already changed. The question wasn't whether humanity would become the dominant force. The question was what would happen to everyone else. In her quarters on Nexus Station, Captain Chen felt the ripples of the confrontation through the enhanced communication network that connected all transformed humans. The galaxy was approaching a tipping point. Soon, everyone would have to choose, evolve or be left behind. And time was running out faster than anyone realized. The emergency alarms that screamed across Nexus Station were unlike anything anyone had heard before. Deep primal sounds that seemed to reach into the minds of every living being and trigger ancient fears of predators in the darkness. Captain Chen was in the command center within seconds of the first alarm, her enhanced reflexes carrying her through corridors faster than the station's emergency lifts. What she saw on the main display made her enhanced mind work at maximum speed to process the implications. "Report," she ordered. "Unknown fleet detected at the edge of the Vega system," Admiral Zethkar said. His voice was steady, but Chen could see the fear in his eyes. "Ships like nothing in our databases. They appeared without warning and began consuming the outer planets." The main screen showed long-range sensor data from Vega. Massive black vessels, each the size of a small moon, moved through the system like hungry sharks. As they approached planets, beams of dark energy reached out and simply disintegrated everything they touched. Rock, metal, atmosphere, everything was converted into raw energy that flowed back into the ships. "How many ships?" Chen asked. "We count 47 so far," reported the Talari sensor operator. "But more are arriving every few minutes. It's like they're coming out of empty space itself." Dr. Vasquez appeared at Chen's side, having run from the human quarters. "The energy signatures match architect warnings in our records." "These are the Devourers," Chen nodded grimly. For 11 years, she and her crew had studied the architect records about this enemy. The Devourers were machines created by some unknown civilization millions of years ago. They had been designed to consume advanced technology and use it to build more of themselves. Over the eons, they had grown into a vast swarm that traveled between galaxies, eating entire civilizations. "How long until they reach inhabited worlds?" Chen asked. "At their current speed, 6 hours to Vega Prime," the sensor operator replied. 12 hours to the next system. They're not just moving toward planets, though. They're heading directly for areas with the highest technology concentrations. "They're hunting advanced civilizations," Chen said. Just like the architects warned, Admiral Zethkar activated the emergency communication system. "All Galactic Council fleets respond to Nexus Station immediately. We face a threat to all life in the galaxy." Within an hour, ships began arriving from every major power. Krillian battlecruisers, Volari trading vessels converted to warships, hegemony fortress ships, and dozens of smaller craft from minor species. It was the largest fleet ever assembled in galactic history. But Chen knew it wouldn't be enough. "Admiral," she said quietly, "we need to talk privately." They moved to a secure conference room where Chen activated privacy shields that even the station's sensors couldn't penetrate. "The conventional fleet won't work against the Devourers," she said bluntly. "The architects fought them for 1,000 years with technology far beyond what any of our species possesses. They lost." Zethkar's blue skin grew pale. "What are you suggesting?" "The enhanced human ships are our only hope. We've been preparing for this for 11 years, but we can't do it alone. We need every ship that's undergone the trials." How many is that? 54 ships with transformed crews. Each one has capabilities that match or exceed what the architects had at the beginning of their war. Zethkar was quiet for a moment. "You're asking me to put the fate of the galaxy in the hands of humans who've been changed by alien technology." "I'm asking you to choose between survival and pride," Chen replied. "The Devourers adapt to every weapon used against them. Conventional tactics will only teach them how to fight better. We need strategies they've never encountered before." An hour later, Chen stood before the assembled fleet commanders. Representatives of every major species filled the briefing room, their faces showing the strain of the crisis. "The enemy adapts," Chen began, displaying holographic images of Devourer ships in action. "Every time we use a weapon, they analyze it and develop countermeasures. Traditional fleet tactics will fail because they're based on patterns the Devourers have seen before." General Corthan of the Hegemony interrupted. "So what do you propose?" Chaos, Chen replied simply. The enhanced human crews can think and react in ways that follow no predictable patterns. We can coordinate attacks across light years instantly through quantum-linked consciousness. We can manipulate space-time in ways that create tactical advantages the Devourers can't analyze. She gestured, and the hologram changed to show battle formations that seemed to shift and flow like living things. But we need the conventional fleets to play a specific role. You'll engage the Devourers directly, forcing them to focus on traditional threats while the enhanced ships strike from unexpected angles. Admiral Zethkar studied the battle plans. You're asking our ships to be bait. I'm asking you to be heroes, Chen corrected. Without your sacrifice, the enhanced ships can't get close enough to strike at the Devourers' weak points. The debate that followed was intense. Some commanders refused to risk their fleets on human tactics they didn't understand. Others argued that conventional warfare was their only chance. The argument was settled when new reports arrived. The Devourers had consumed the entire Vega system and were moving toward the heavily populated Centauri cluster. Time was running out. We follow the human plan, Zethkar announced. All fleets will coordinate with Captain Chen's ships. The next 6 hours were unlike anything in galactic history. Ships that had been enemies just days before worked together in desperate cooperation. Krillian battle cruisers shared targeting data with Valari merchant vessels. Hegemony fortress ships provided cover for fragile explorer craft. At the center of it all, the enhanced human ships moved like dancers in a complex ballet. The Perseverance led 53 other vessels in patterns that seemed impossible. They appeared and disappeared using architect cloaking technology. They struck from multiple directions simultaneously using spatial distortion fields. They communicated and coordinated without any detectable signals. The first engagement happened at the edge of the Centauri system. A Devourer scout fleet of 12 ships met the combined galactic force head-on. All ships engage, Zethkar ordered. The conventional fleet opened fire with everything they had. Plasma cannons, missile swarms, energy beams, and exotic weapons lit up space like a festival. The Devourers responded exactly as Chen had predicted, analyzing each attack and developing countermeasures. But while the enemy was focused on the visible threat, the enhanced human ship struck from hyperspace itself. The Perseverance materialized inside a Devourer ship and detonated a spatial disruption charge that collapsed the enemy vessel from within. 3 more human ships used gravitational manipulation to literally turn a Devourer inside out. The enemy tried to adapt, but the human attacks followed no pattern they could analyze. Each strike was different, unpredictable, impossible to counter because it had never been used before. Within an hour, all 12 Devourer ships were destroyed. The galactic fleet had suffered losses, but they had won their first victory against an enemy that had seemed unstoppable. How did you do that? General Corthan asked during the post-battle briefing. We think like humans, Chen replied. Chaotic, creative, illogical. The Devourers are machines. They expect efficient, logical patterns. Human creativity is the one thing they can't predict or counter. But the celebration was short-lived. Long-range sensors detected the main Devourer fleet approaching. Hundreds of ships, each larger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. The real battle is about to begin, Chen announced, and this time they'll be expecting us. As the massive enemy fleet approached, Chen realized that everything they had fought for in the past months, the political struggles, the fear, the resistance to change, had been preparation for this moment. The galaxy would either unite behind humanity's transformed capabilities, or it would fall to an enemy that had consumed countless civilizations across the universe. The enhanced humans had become what the architects intended, guardians capable of standing against the darkness. But being capable and succeeding were 2 different things. The true test was about to begin. The main Devourer fleet filled space like a living shadow. 300 massive ships, each one capable of consuming an entire planet, moved in perfect formation toward the heart of galactic civilization. Behind them, thousands of smaller vessels spread out like hunting wolves. Captain Chen stood on the bridge of the Perseverance, her enhanced consciousness linked to every human ship in the fleet. Through 54 sets of eyes, she could see the battle developing from every angle. Through 54 enhanced minds, she could process tactical information faster than any computer. All conventional fleets, assume defensive positions around Nexus Station, she ordered. Wait for my signal before engaging. Admiral Zethkar's voice came through the communication system. Captain, Our sensors show the enemy has weapons that can destroy entire star systems. How can we possibly win? Because we're not fighting their way, Chen replied. We're fighting ours. The enhanced human ships began to move in patterns that defied conventional tactics. Instead of forming battle lines or defensive formations, they scattered across light years of space, each ship acting independently while remaining perfectly coordinated through their quantum-linked consciousness. The Devourers responded as Chen expected. They analyzed the human movements, looking for patterns to exploit and counter, but the patterns kept changing faster than they could adapt. Execute Gamma Protocol, Chen commanded. 12 human ships suddenly vanished from normal space, entering a dimension between dimensions that the architects had taught them to access. They reappeared inside the Devourer formation, not as physical ships but as pure energy constructs that moved through the enemy vessels like ghosts. The Devourers tried to target these energy forms, but their weapons passed harmlessly through them. Meanwhile, the human ships began disrupting the enemy vessels from within, turning their own power cores against them. 20 Devourer ships exploded in cascading chain reactions, but the enemy adapted quickly. The remaining ships reconfigured their hulls to prevent further infiltration. They began using weapons that could affect energy beings as well as physical matter. Phase 2, Chen announced. The scattered human ships began working together in ways that seemed impossible. The ship Horizon, positioned 3 light years away, used its enhanced engines to create a gravitational distortion. The ship Unity, on the opposite side of the battle, generated a temporal field. When the two effects intersected near the Devourer fleet, space itself began to twist and buckle. 100 enemy ships found themselves trapped in a pocket of folded space-time, unable to escape or attack effectively. Now, Chen commanded. The conventional galactic fleet opened fire with everything they had, but their weapons weren't aimed at the trapped Devourers. Instead, they fired into the spatial distortion itself, feeding energy into the quantum field that the human ships had created. The combined energy of 1,000 ships, channeled through architect technology and human creativity, created something new, a wave of pure destruction that didn't just destroy the trapped Devourers, but erased them from existence entirely. The remaining enemy ships tried to retreat, but the enhanced humans were ready for that too. Captain Walsh's ship Explorer had been waiting in hyperspace, and now it emerged behind the fleeing Devourers with a new weapon that the crew had developed during the battle. Consciousness Disruptor. Activated, Walsh reported. The weapon was based on understanding gained from the architect trials. It attacked not the physical ships but the artificial intelligence that controlled them. For the first time in millions of years, Devourer ships began acting confused and disorganized. All ships, final assault, Chen ordered. What followed was the most complex military action in galactic history. Enhanced human ships attacked from 12 dimensions simultaneously. Conventional fleets provided covering fire and energy support. Species that had been enemies for centuries worked together with precision that amazed their own commanders. The battle lasted 18 hours. When it ended, every Devourer ship had been destroyed or disabled. The threat that had consumed countless civilizations was finally stopped. But Chen knew the victory came with a price. The enhanced humans had revealed capabilities that changed everything about galactic politics. There could be no going back to the old ways. In the aftermath, representatives from every species gathered on Nexus Station. The Great Hall had never seen such a diverse assembly, with beings from dozens of worlds sharing the same space. The threat is ended, Chen announced to the assembled crowd. But our work is just beginning. The galaxy has seen what enhanced beings can accomplish. The question now is what we do with that knowledge. Admiral Zethkar stepped forward. His blue skin showed the exhaustion of recent battles, but his voice was strong. The Krillian Empire formally requests access to the architect trials. We have seen what transformation can accomplish. One by one, other species made similar requests. The Volari Consortium wanted to enhance their trade capabilities. The hegemony sought to strengthen their defensive abilities. Even small, independent worlds asked for the chance to grow beyond their current limitations. The trials are dangerous, Chen warned. Not every crew survives. Not every individual can handle the changes. Some species may not be compatible with architect technology. We understand the risks, said Counselor Vexera, but we also understand the alternative. The galaxy is changing whether we participate or not. We can adapt and grow, or we can be left behind. Dr. Vasquez had been working with teams from multiple species to establish safe trial protocols. We've identified 17 species that show genetic compatibility with architect enhancements, she reported. We can begin limited trials within 6 months. But Chen was already looking beyond immediate concerns. The enhanced human network had detected something during the battle that worried her. The Devourers weren't the only threat, she announced. They were scouts for something larger. The architect records speak of a source, an original creator that the Devourers serve. The assembly fell silent. They had just defeated an enemy that had seemed impossible to beat, only to learn that a greater threat existed. How long do we have? General Corthan asked. Unknown, Chen replied. The Devourers' defeat will be noticed. When the source investigates, it will find a galaxy full of enhanced beings using architect technology. That may attract attention we're not ready for. Then we prepare, Admiral Zethkar said firmly. All of us together. 6 months later, the first multi-species crew completed the architect trials. The ship Freedom emerged from the Void Nebula carrying beings from 5 different worlds, all enhanced and working together with perfect coordination. Captain Chen watched from the bridge of the Perseverance as more ships entered the trials. Humans were no longer the only enhanced species in the galaxy. Soon there would be dozens of transformed civilizations, each bringing their own unique abilities to the galactic community. Do you think we're ready for what's coming? Dr. Vasquez asked. Chen smiled as she watched a Krillian human joint crew prepare for their trial run. A year ago, these species could barely work together on trade agreements. Now they're sharing the most intimate form of cooperation possible. I think we're becoming exactly what the galaxy needs. The transformation wasn't just physical or mental anymore. It was social, political, and spiritual. Species that had been separated by biology and culture were learning to work together as parts of a greater whole. And somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, ancient sensors recorded the destruction of the Devourer fleet. In response, something vast and terrible began to stir. The source had noticed that the galaxy was no longer defenseless, but this time it would not face scattered primitive civilizations fighting alone. It would face a united galaxy of enhanced beings who had learned to think, fight, and grow together. The real test was still coming, but for the first time in millions of years the galaxy was ready. Captain Chen gave orders to begin long-range exploration missions. Enhanced ships would travel to distant galaxies, seeking allies and gathering intelligence about the threats that might be approaching. Humanity had become the catalyst for galactic transformation, but they would not face the future alone. The enhanced beings of dozens of species would stand together, stronger than any single civilization could be. They would explore, grow, and protect the light of consciousness wherever it appeared in the universe. And when the darkness came again, it would find not prey but guardians ready to defend everything they had built together. The galaxy had evolved. Now it was time to help the universe do the same.